also asking for a use variance. These are from the BZA. Use variance would be for the individual, but possibly mobile food truck, because it's in B1, I1 industrial, the district that actually prohibited food trucks. So that would require a use variance. Again, the area variance is for the smokers outside. So that's for the BZA. As I understand it, those applications are going to be going forward this month before the BZA.
Correct.
But at the same time, the actual catering kitchen, which is inside the building, as I understand, which is not a restaurant, but we're treating it similarly to a restaurant because of the commercial kitchen and the food that's going to be prepared there. Restaurants are conditional use in that district, so that is what's the planning commission, in addition to like the development review. So with the conditional use permit, we do have to set a hearing within 60 days, public hearing, and that is what we're here to do tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah. What meeting did we move?
I thought the December meeting, right?
Is it that far away?
The 12/8, yeah.
Yeah.
It's outside of the morning.
We moved it, that one, okay, I couldn't remember if it was one next month.
Well, because we're going out to Mannerbrook, it's like.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
December 8th.
Yeah. It just has to be with, what's the soonest we can do it?
I think it has to be within 60 days.
No, like, we couldn't do
Oh,
it
the
tomorrow, there
application.
needs to be some minimal time between tonight and the meeting, or, I don't wanna do it tomorrow night, I'm just trying to get
One
that.
second.
We have to advertise it too, is there?
Correct. Notice has to be given in 20 days before the hearing, so we have to have at least a 20-day for the advertisement that goes in. I don't know if it can go in tomorrow, and then the first available time for the advertisement for the public hearing can go in, we have to have 20 days.
So for mid-November?
We do it at our next regular meeting on November 10th.
So if I'm not here for that one, if you guys wanna go ahead, so November the 10th. Can we move it a week?
Sure.
Which way?
17th?
We
We want to go to the third.
17th, move it back a week?
Is that enough time, Ruth, for the publication to go into?
Around the 17th.
Yes, for 20 days. Okay.
So can we make that like a regular meeting with regular business, because that'll be like our November meeting, and then the 8th, I think we're just meeting in the morning, so we're not. But
Right,
that's our, we do regular business on the 8th if we have to, right?
On December 8th?
Yes, and even though it's at morning meeting.
If we have to do a special, we have to do, you're right, we're changing the time, that's our usual regular meeting at night.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
we're doing it at a different location.
well, I think we're convening here, aren't we? And then,
we are,
We usually can talk about that, I thought we were convening actually at Manhattan. No?
Here and then
And
going
then all
on.
going over there, okay, I need to change that.
well, for the 17th, because we've done this before, where we'll have a special meeting, we'll call a special meeting, hold it, end the special meeting, and then have a regular meeting.
For November?
Correct.
Yes, that's correct, but it is on a different date, that's the only problem, right, than your regular schedule. You're not doing it on the 10th, you're gonna do it on the 17th,
Correct, we'll do both on the 17th.
and that's fine.
You guys do
so
what?
on 17, we're gonna do a public hearing at 7:30, and
Or 7, whatever.
and a special meeting for regular business. Well, because we're gonna consider, we'll have our public hearing, but then once we conclude that, then we'll consider this as part of regular business.
Correct,
So maybe 7:15 for the public hearing?
whatever time you reserve.
I just said.
Or 7?
Just keep it at
The
7.
public hearing's gonna be, well,
No.
they're going in front of BZA all day. Like if there's,
They're going before BZA, I think. next
Right,
week.
yeah, the next week.
okay, and then the adjacent property owners have been.
Let's keep it at 7:30.
I'm assuming, yes. That's what we normally do.
Okay, so yeah, if there's problems, it'll be before.
Special meeting at 7:30 and then right after the regular meeting.
Alright.
So no meeting at 7:30 on the 17th, 9 a.m. on the 8th.
Alright. Okay, we'll see you guys in like 5 minutes.
Okay, do we have to do by motion or anything, Brian?
Yes, let's do a motion.
Okay.
I move we have our regularly scheduled November meeting on November 17th at 7:30. And be preceded by a public hearing for the application of Hawaiian Guys food truck and kitchen operation and that right afterwards, right before we do, right after we do the regular meeting. So moved.
Steve Lesnick,
Yes.
James White,
Yes.
Mark Porter,
Yes.
William Jones.
Yes.
Louise Amick.
Yes.
Good luck. We'll see you back in a little while. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. You too.
You just want to Ruth, all the paperwork, you want to just hold on to this, so
I
it's.
could, there's,
I
Make
think
sure you pass it back down.
yeah,
Yeah.
why don't we do
let's
that?
not print all this stuff.
There's also a large set of plans that I didn't include, so
Oh, okay.
for Hawaii.
Okay, good.
You're giving this back?
Yeah, they were handling the white.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Thank you. I didn't know if you wanted to gather the
That's all good.
I've got it on email, so I'm gonna go out there and look. But I
I'm waiting on our thing.
do it.
Yeah, thank you.
We have you.
All the tests and stuff. Okay. The other item on the agenda is the Red Barn comments, so thanks for coming back. I will say, in my role as chairman and personally, I appreciate the approach you guys have taken. This was a little convoluted, no doubt. I think what you've come back with, from my own personal perspective, is what I think we're all hoping to get, and it's clear that you guys have put some time into this. I know that understanding the direction maybe got a little bit hard, but I think there's some things to go through, so you can explain these, but I just wanted to in front and say, I think it's definitely moved in the right direction, and I just appreciate that, because it could have gone differently.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Do you want to walk us through the updates and kind of?
Yeah, I tried to do, again, Randy Kramer, an attorney representing Mr. Gear. More importantly, you're gonna hear from, I think, Steve Ciceretto. He will tell you a little bit more. He's an architect that brought a lot of these things together and helped us take care of the lighting. He's also a landscape or a lighting expert and did some measurements, so he can tell you a little bit more about those measurements. He also works throughout Geauga County, so he can give you a perspective on what else he sees across the county and how this, the lighting component relates in that regard. So what I did, you did have some submissions from Mr. Yurt. I took a lot of what he did really and just put them together in a status statement. I owe a big thank you to Ruth for catching a couple of my spelling errors, so.
She's good.
Whoever's in charge of the raises, please make sure. But I think it's rather self-explanatory from my perspective, and I hope I don't misremember some of the comments from last time, and I wasn't taking notes, but I know there was a lot of comments. At one point, Mr. Flays, I think, said that whole area is kind of bright or something to that effect. So we went over there. Unfortunately, it was late at night, so we had the opportunity to walk over there and get a perspective on it. One of the big things that, again, I think was Mr. Flays commented that the building to the north was really bright. We were able to determine that in large part that was because of the security light, an outdated security light that was on the side of Mr. Yurt's building. So in his defense, and from his perspective, he looked right at it and said, yeah, I probably should change that light. And so that was one of the first things we did. If you were to go over there now, you'd see a new light was placed on the side of his building on the north that faces downward, as opposed to that building to the north. So I think that softened that. Steve can tell you, as I've outlined in here, all the different lighting adjustments that have been made. I think he also had the benefit of walking over to, I know the gas station is not a perfect comparison, but it gives us a perspective. He has a tool that measures the candle measurements. And he can show the difference between how that is compared to what's there now and what was there previously before our last meeting. So we made a lot of those adjustments, put a lot of things on timers, went so far as to take some of the lighting on Mr. Yurt's insurance building down, even though, of course, we didn't have to do that, but to kind of soften that whole area. We wanted to get on top of that stuff right away. Not that these things are always about the expenses, but I hope you know that there's probably a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 expense in just adjusting the lighting across both properties that Mr. Yurt did invest in making those changes right away. We did try to answer Mr. Porter's concern with the landscaping there. we did come across that prior drawing that showed that landscaping bricked. Yeah, so not to start an argument, but at least it puts in perspective where Mr. Yurt went with it. I didn't want you to think he was thumbing anybody's nose at the landscaping component. But that was approved, and that's why we went forward with that. Steve's here to answer the questions. We put a lot of these things on timer. I think I'm accurate on all this stuff, because we have what goes on timer, but you probably could know now. Bridie was helpful to try to keep me on track as to what she thought, some of the things that you guys would be interested in. So she pointed out that we essentially resubmitted the red sign, so you would want to know why it's different today. So I outlined in there what's different. I think I have that on the second page here. We took off the lighting component that would be at the top of the sign where I think Ms. Budo said it was laser cut or whatever we describe it as.
What is the sign made of?
Again, that's all.
That's.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, maybe Steve would know that. But we did remove the lighting on that component of the sign, so at night, the part that would be lit would be the white. Again, still backlit, I know that was the point of contention, but we do think that backlit is consistent across this intersection here, and we think it'll be appropriate. Again, the prior white sign submission that you saw, I'm gonna take responsibility for that, because I was assuming that the main objection was that it was bright red. So I had asked Mr. Yurt to soften that and make it white to be consistent with the Yurt sign. Unfortunately, I found out the hard way that wasn't your main objection, so we reversed that, softened the lighting on there. That's outlined in the second page of my status statement. Other than that, I don't think there's much that I can add as far as Mr. Yurt's legal counsel over here to answer any questions. And I'd ask you to hear from Steve, who's been an architect for some 4 years now. He's here in Geauga County. I think he can tell you a lot more about the lightings and the project itself. Unless anybody has any questions for me.
No, please go ahead.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Bridie and I did exchange emails. A lot of cities will require an easement for ingress and egress to the part that goes across the Yurt property. To the extent that that's needed, and you guys make that a condition, we can.
Did you say you wanted to this up?
I didn't know for sure, so we are owned by two separate owners.
Yeah.
I do need to talk with Dave for sure.
Some cities would want it, because we do show it as ingress and egress, so, or we could just park that off as a couple spots.
Good, well, just to pick up on some of the loose points, we generated this plot plan that indicated with the parking, meeting parking requirements, it's just under 6,000 square foot. And so our code, surplus ordinance calls for one spot for every 300 square feet. So it's basically asked for 20 parking spaces to be in compliance with this building, this straight office building.
I'm sorry, what's the approved number of people inside by the fire department?
Well, it's based on the square footage, so.
Sorry, three curveball there.
So the building code sets up the amount of occupants in
Right.
the space, 1 per 100 square feet. So we looked at this as, we have 5,932 square feet rentable, which is 5,900.
Okay.
So there's 30 on the first floor and 29 on the second floor. It is,
Okay, thanks.
so yeah, that perimeter, there's a, probably not, I think I can do it on the screen. There's a parking setback, 30-foot parking setback on the two sides, and which is the south and the east side, and on the west.
Opposite of the ramp.
Yes, so yes, you can see the mark, 30-foot parking setback. So basically, we're just showing that we're in compliance with all the setbacks for parking, no variance required for that. And also, in compliance for lot coverage, we're actually calculating up at 30% lot coverage and 35% planting lot coverage. So,
Where's the handicap parking?
yeah, and you see, there's a crosshatch spot right in front of the main entrance, and then there's a handicap logo on on the first phase.
Oh, good.
To the left.
There, okay, yeah, that's, so nearest to the door, possible is what our goal always is for handicap parking. It's a van accessible parking spot, so it has an 8 foot, wide parking space next to it, actually it's 9 foot. All the parking spots are 9 by 20 to the code. So covering parking in that, there was a question, I know there's some history about the ramp and what happened, there was a question, something that came up earlier, I understand about the ADA compliance of that ramp. That is not an ADA compliant ramp. It is, that second floor is not required to be ADA compliant, and the American Disabilities Act and the Ohio Building Code. So it's a supplemental, we consider it as a supplemental outfit. The main entrance is right in front of that handicap, that cross spot, and you can see the stair hall is indicated. The number of occupants is kind of important for that because the 29 occupant load on the second floor limits the amount of required exits to 1. So the stair hall acts as the single required exit, and this is all into the building department and approved, part of the tenant improvement package, by the way. The ramp is just a supplemental exit. So in case of a fire, yeah, when you stay in the building, you go out that ramp, I think there's more chances with the ramp.
Real quick, I know that you guys don't know it, but Mr. Yurt had hoped to have more parking towards the landscaping side. So during our conversation, we knew that buffering on that side was important too, so you can see that I know that he compromised, you guys don't know that, to just have those 3 spots on that, I guess that's the eastern side.
Yeah. So you can see, so are there any questions about parking or?
So aside from required code, occupants, if you have 59 people in the building, where they all parking?
Well, that's the maximum load. I can tell you that there's no way that they hit those numbers.
Oh, okay.
That's the minimum number. Don's office, for example, takes more than half of the upstairs, and they have 3 occupants.
I would say each unit upstairs will have 3, maybe 10 people upstairs at max.
Okay.
Downstairs maybe 10, 12. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, we'd always like to hit those numbers.
Well, I didn't know if you meant 59.
Yeah, so
Right, I didn't know if you meant that's what's coming in or just what the max is.
correct, those are the maximum numbers allowed by the Ohio Building Code. And so the fire department likes to look at that, and the building department, because they want to make sure we have the exits that are required.
And you may not know what the inside is like, I don't know if you guys do,
But
but
now,
there's essentially 2 offices upstairs.
Okay.
And then 2, maybe 3 downstairs, with the 3rd one downstairs, I think, is at that north part there.
okay.
So, to give you a perspective.
So for the ingress egress, would you tell tenants to go use the parking behind the other building? Is that kind of the intent? If you get 22 people trying to park there, you got 20 spots. Is that where you think they're gonna end up going?
Kind of doing.
No, in the area next to the insurance building.
We have kind of a fallback,
I'm just kind of practically wondering.
Yeah,
You're saying that your property,
that's it.
and you're an insurance firm.
I mean, that's probably what practically happens, but as a fallback, if it makes you comfortable, because we're only at 30% lot coverage and we're allowed 35, we could swing some more parking. You see where the
Behind the
parking
north?
spot is? Yeah, behind the north section. So we could probably pick up 3 or 4 spaces back there, still being in that parking
Okay.
setback. So we'll call it bank parking,
Yeah.
for the record, in case that becomes an issue, we'll make.
We can show them on a drawing as land, or as bank parking spots, and just not put it in case it's an issue.
I just want to make sure you guys have,
Yeah.
a successful building is going to have a parking problem.
Yeah.
So,
I honestly, knowing how we do a lot of tenant improvement work.
Yeah.
Surprised we didn't get caught for the Hawaiian one. And the Hawaiian girl, a little disappointed by that. But anyways, we, seeing this type of building, that it's, especially post COVID, that the situation with parking is probably we're probably over parked right now.
Okay.
But it's a good point. So moving on from parking and the setbacks and no variances, as we said, we did not relate to me. I was involved early on in this process, so we're playing a little catch up. So I believe that we picking up the pieces, but the landscape mound to the east has been put in, and evergreen trees are, as we call out on there, are all part of that component. Primarily, we tried, in terms of landscaping, to continue what's happening at the Yurt building. So there'll be some beds you see there. They use the method of stoning those beds and then going ahead and putting some wild grasses, some knockout roses. Those are kind of the typical flowers. So we'll be doing that, and Mr. Yurt will be supplementing those beds with annuals, so get colorful throughout the summer. So otherwise, the idea is that the two properties sort of blend seamlessly, even though there's a property line there. Of course, you don't see that property line in real life. So mostly lawn. I think the intent of this project was always to remind us that historically in South Russell, there would be a farmhouse and barn associated with it. And I think if you really look at that property today, you could almost envision that as the old farmhouse and the barn that was associated with it. So I think it was a fortunate solution, even though I wish I would have been involved early. I think it was a fortunate solution rather than seeing a developer come in and try and put in a permitted shopping center, something that would have been probably not as desirable or not as unique. Let's see, are there any questions about any of that?
Could you tell them, I did have Steve draw on the drawing, the lighting on the, and then could you touch on the lighting as you see the
Yes.
lenses at this point?
So I know there's great concern that, even though it is a business district, that it's still a rural residential community. So we did cut the light fixture. I think the light fixtures as a whole, the pole lamps, let's talk about first, were surprisingly, when I measured the foot candles, were fairly minimal. There's less than 5 foot candles 3 foot from the picture, but I understand what you were looking at. And there's an intense glare that is right in your eye because they're not cut off pictures. They're more decorative and historic. So after I talked to Mr. Yurt about it, he agreed to have those cut down. Those lights now are at less than 1/4 of 1% foot candle, 1/4 of 1 foot candle on. So
Can you describe a foot candle?
Yeah.
So I think of lumens.
Okay, well, it's similar in terms of light quantity. I think a foot candle is, for example, in this space right now, is probably approximately 18, 19 foot candles.
Okay.
So not overly bright, it's probably most of office buildings today, we try to do it about 30 foot candles because that's sort of optimal for writing and using computer screens. I'll tell you, 20 years ago, we were at 60 foot candles and as bright as possible, when you're just without computer screens, so in offices. So a foot candle is just a unit of measurement and comparing it. But what it doesn't really show is the glare that comes off that picture. So we attempted to remedy that, and I think if you look at those now and compare it to any residential property, it's no different than a pole lamp at the end of somebody's driveway. So really cut that light down. In addition to that, all of those lights, every light is basically on a timer now that'll shut off at 10 o'clock, except for the ones that are right under the canopies at the exit doors. So the emergency lighting, which are on photo cells, so they're dawn to dusk. So there will be some lights around the building, but the ground lighting, the pole lamps, and the sign.
The pole lamps are on that.
I'm sorry, the pole lamps are on.
Dusk to dawn.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's not-
Yeah, I see that on my note there.
So the pole lamp and like the lights over there.
Yes, those are the only lights that are on. So it's generally what we consider security lighting. It's low light levels and should not be intrusive.
What do they come on? They go off at 10, what do they come on?
I thought we had them all set at 10.
No, we
What
don't.
time do they come on?
Oh,
They come on at dusk, or I have to.
No, all the buildings. so they turn on in the morning or
No, they don't come on till,
just?
5 o'clock.
5, 6 o'clock, wherever they start.
Okay,
Okay,
In the summertime, it'll be 9 o'clock, now it's 6 o'clock.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's just an evening, it'll kick on, but it turns off at 10.
Right,
Okay.
And so we feel like the lights that are left on will get people in the morning, to the door, get stuck in the wintertime, without.
Yeah, and the sign will go off, the sign is set to go off at 10 o'clock. That's on the timer, it'll go off at 10 o'clock.
We also cut in the sign, I think Randy may have touched on that, there's light panels and then there was an Indian aluminum frame of that, aluminum box that was white cut, laser cut, so
So
they had,
the sign is metal,
yes.
that's, I didn't know if it was metal, or if it was
Yes.
clearly.
The red is, the white parts are all polycarbonate, so,
Yeah.
so that's metal, the aluminum skirt, the aluminum box around the outside.
So, and here it says that the only backlighting that remains are the white strips for the tenant meetings. So it's like, it's
Correct.
1225 Bell Road and Red Bar Commons, that's
Red
not,
barn's not lit, yeah.
it's not backlit.
No,
It's,
the sign that, the 1245 into the meters, the red bar counters.
Okay, so the only thing backlit are the 4 tenant
Correct.
spots.
correct.
And then it goes off at 10 o'clock.
There's actually a light that's intended to light that, so we just disconnect that up or in the middle of the month. So only the light, so if someone needs, during the winter, someone may be still looking to go to someone's office or something, so still trying to provide some direction. Not nearly as bright as the white here sign anymore, so.
Is there going to be a spotlight on the sign also, or
No.
just the back?
Just
Just
that.
the back.
And then
If you like a spotlight, I'll put a spotlight too.
The, I don't know if you touched on, we also softened the lighting on the building itself, the ground lighting on
Yeah.
Yeah, that lighting is all been cut.
yeah, so the accent lighting on the building, is that up under the eaves or where is?
It's not ground.
It's ground,
It's all brown lit.
yeah.
No, there's one over each door,
Oh, yeah,
and there's
okay.
up to get the top, the bottom is right now, and those all go off at 10 o'clock.
Those
And
are all
those
the
have
time.
been dimmed too.
Yeah.
What's what are they doing? I guess part of, not to jump ahead too much, 1,000% improvement. For me, I was very impressed. It went from something that I would drive by and go like, oh my gosh, to like, it looks beautiful. Like, the lighting change, I can't, it impressed me how much it changed my perception of how it looks with the lighting change. But I guess if we're looking at like approving this with the various conditions, how do we measure the light? Like, how do we put that in? Like, okay, we're approving it at these lighting levels, these times, like, so what do we call that? The ground lighting or the building, exterior building lighting, like, what level is that at that we can put in something? You follow?
Our stuff is right on the building, yeah.
There's no bulbs, no real bulbs in there anymore, right? So.
Yeah, I thought it would be.
And you didn't do a
I did not
measurement?
I did not take that measurement. I know that I talked to the electrician, and he told me that, and he was just referencing the original, he said, we cut it off 50% minimum, but sorry to say that I did not take the reading on that in this building.
Steve?
Yeah.
I don't like what was done. I think we went overboard. I look at the lighting, what I call Augie's. I see the gas station, I see the police station, and it's dark here. I think we've gone too far. I would say for now, let's leave it. Because winter's coming, but I think in 6 months from now, at least I would be very agreeable to have you come back and say, why don't we match the police station as far as aluminum for the gas station. My original hope was it would be like the gas station at 10 o'clock at night, it would go down, up in the morning. But that's just my opinion. I applaud you for being very patient and working. I think you went too far.
I can tell you-
The police station.
I can tell you that I did take a foot candle measure over at the gas station under the canopy, and it's 35, 37 foot candles. So literally 6 times what we had originally, but, different.
It's down.
It's-
It's down.
Yeah, I think what was bothering most of you was the harshness of looking at a 10-foot mounted light, and instead of a cutoff that's shining down. But we can revisit, how to bring things back up, because the light itself on the building can be, the lamp can be replaced.
I just like to, I want to kind of approve this and move on, and I think we need to have limits. Again, the gas,
We could, we could have some measurements done and submit them, and just submit them by email to Dave.
I'm
So I know what they are as
the
the
way it looks now is I think is great. Honestly, I think to the mayor's point, the DRY, the building on the corner is, maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing it so lit up. It's pretty dark. So,
The whole thing is pretty dark.
Right.
I
I can tell you that.
the barn looks great. To me, the barn looks, those are nice accent lights, not, you could still see the barn and still see everything. I think it accents it really well.
To address that concern, would it be okay if I have Steve or somebody take those lumen numbers on the landscape and submit those to Dave, so you know what they are as of the email? That way, if they ever looked like they had gone up, you could have a measurement.
Yeah, that would be helpful, I think.
And I think, to the mayor's point, I appreciate that, and, we obviously would just stipulate that there would be no changes until such time as we were to apply for something to be changed. Just to make everybody comfortable.
I'm certainly, blank on the word, I understand that if this gets into the winter and it's really dark, from a safety standpoint, or can't see it, around the parking lot, people coming in and things like that, I totally understand it. Nobody's there with uplighting, maybe that's not as big a deal. I also, Mayor, appreciate your comments. Police station's a little bit different in my mind. It's a police station, we probably want that more lit, as opposed to an office building, but I think, we're all impressed at what has come back. So I think that's a good solution. And maybe we put in whatever those are, maybe we put in like plus or minus like 5% or something, because, right, I'm sure it's not like always a perfect measurement, but putting something like that in, having those measurements done. Mr. Yurt, I am interested though, what do you think of how it looks with the lighting as adjusted?
Well, I think that the pole lights are ridiculous, but, it's like. the
Because
pole
they're-
lights- Because they're so dim, they don't do anything, they just light up and how far does it go out? The pole?
Yeah, the difficulty is that we look for, that MFD was searching for some type of fixture that had some historic quality and some reference to the community. So you see Michigan Falls, you see them around, most developers don't put that expensive a fixture in. And so now the issue with it is, will misplace that they're at eye level because they're meant to look somewhat residential, somewhat like commercial. And the problem is that there's no way to finesse that glare. So as soon as you start bringing those lights up, you start getting hot spots. And that's kind of difficult. I asked in our work, we're trying to find a solution that maybe could have baffled that and left the lights a little brighter, but we were not successful, at least at this point, in whole things in manufacturing. But that would have been almost the ideal thing.
That was my hope, you could shield it,
Right.
and like said, the baffling, and the right is kind of directional.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to get back to the manufacturers, it's gonna take months. To get back to them and say, okay, how can we have it dimmed,
More of a down.
downlight or not as bright? But it's gonna take months, so that's why we did it like this now,
We were looking for some other frosting type.
yeah. So we're looking for,
But technical question, it's not a dimmed light, like it doesn't dim up and down.
No.
It's
No.
the light,
Right.
and it's at whatever that is when you put that bulb in.
That's the unfortunate part about this.
so that's what we're looking for, maybe we can get to the manufacturer, which is gonna take months, to see if we can get it we can dim it down or light it up.
Yeah, they physically bypass the light that's in there and put a new light, so they kind of.
Okay.
Solicitor, how would we approve what they've done? Do we just go on the written statements we've received tonight and say, this is what we would make a motion to approve? Or do we have to give some specific moments and
However
we
you
go
want,
on just what's been presented?
however you want to do it, you can put conditions on it.
So I think, like, we could have them, we could approve the lighting intensity that exists in the property now, have them provide us with, plus or minus 5% variance. Have them, and then have them provide us the measurements next week, within 10 days or something, so. that-
Approval subject to submitting lumens
Yeah.
by the end of next week or something.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say, I like the way you've done this. And actually, with your corner property, the dimmer lights makes your sign stand out more to me. So it's way easier to read than it was before. So if it's an advertising sign, which it is, you're getting more of your name, not that it needs to be more recognized than it currently is, but to anyone who doesn't know, then they see it easier going by. And I like what you've done with the barn.
That's why we're only coming to planning commission for advertising.
With great success.
We just wanted to pay for that.
All right, so.
I tried hard, that's why I said, I put a lot of effort into it, my people did, the lady guy, he says to me, yeah, you can't pay me nothing, what you make me do.
I think we gotta go through this methodically,
Correct, so have we gone through everything, because again,
So,
lighting,
yeah,
the landscape.
There's a landscape plan, parking plan, sign, development review,
Right. And then,
and then the lighting, I think, is part of the development review. So,
Well, other than
that's, we'll have to discuss.
other than putting the lighting in, these two things have everything else. So I think these two, right, so this talks about what's backlit. This has the landscape plan and the parking.
this too.
Well, this I think was just included as an example of.
Yeah, but remember so this is my other question. Remember, we approved in what, 17?
Was it?
18, I think, 17 or 18, it was a while ago.
So whatever this is what's currently approved. So Bridie, are we, and then there's a parking plan with that. We can scroll down. This was the original.
Yeah.
Parking plan.
So supplemental.
Yeah, so how do you want?
Supplemental is fine.
Okay, so we'll call it a supplemental development.
You want to call it amended?
Amended.
I would call it amended, rather than, it's not adding, it's
True, yeah.
slight changes.
Okay, I just want to, so we got the sign development review, which includes the lighting. Parking plan. And landscape.
I don't
You want
think
us
you
to
need to
go
go
through
through,
them one by
Jim, I
one?
don't think you need to go through and I think the only thing that needs to be added otherwise to a motion is, the motion should be to approve these with the addition of the lighting.
Well, I think we should
As an
do the
amendment.
sign separate from, I think we could do the parking and landscape because it's part of the development review, but I think the sign's a separate thing, right? We don't approve sign in the development review, we approve them because it's a ground sign. In a business.
That sounds good.
Doesn't matter to me, but I know.
I think it's actually both.
Yeah, because I think Brian and I did have this conversation where my position originally was leave us alone on the development plan. But sign is defined as a structure under your code.
Yeah.
And that was the comment. She corrected me. So to me, it's one development plan review.
Well, I think because what we originally approved, obviously the parking plan is different, the
Sure.
grass ramp, so we've got to fix all that.
Yeah, that I understand. I was considering the sign as part of the development plan review, so.
This
One
one
motion.
started with just the request for the sign.
Right, and then it turned into.
This year. Yeah, this year.
Okay, so we've got this,
Landscaping, lighting, parking, and we're going to sign separate.
Okay.
It does no harm to keep them separate, like.
Yeah.
There-
So,
You can
okay,
do them
so
all together too.
just to be clear, the sign as proposed is backlit and then what's the lumens on the DRY? Because it was gonna be the same backlighting, right? It was what we had.
Or foot candles.
I don't think we did any measurements on the DRY.
Higher light, that we doubled that too, we took that.
That's what I meant, so
Oh, yeah.
I thought,
This is gonna probably be less for the DIY, because we only have 3 strips,
yeah, there's only, it's not that much
4 little strips.
for, yeah, so,
I don't know what we know until it goes in, that's the problem.
yeah.
I don't need to point you, but you probably need to see it up there and measure it.
I mean, can we approve it saying it's a similar backlighting level as the DRY sign?
That's not
Good.
I don't like that.
No.
No, because then I think that is gonna pull in, how are we ever gonna show that later? I think we need to have it tight around it as a standalone development review. So why don't we approach it the same way, just come back, provide.
We won't know the lumens on that until it goes in and goes
Installed.
Okay, that's not really good. The part I like is when he said approve. So you'll not get a lot of pushback.
So it snows.
On the rest of the building.
So what if we propose, as part of the proposal here, right? So we're gonna have, the motion's gonna be to adopt a revised development plan that will include an updated landscaping plan, parking, lighting, subject to follow-up for foot candle clarification.
Well, the
Right?
light poles are 1/4 of 1 foot candle. So you can have a number. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then we're approving the building, the ground lighting for the building.
We'll get you a number.
Yeah, but at the current levels, number will be provided, plus or minus 5% of the current lighting. Is that?
Why don't we, can we make this part of our adopted development review? So let's adopt this into it. Because
Okay.
this is your statement.
As part of our application.
Yes. So that, and
It's
then
quite helpful. Thank you for doing
the light poles and the entryway lights for the building will be on a dusk to dawn photo cell.
Whatever.
Is that, yeah, and then the rest are on a timer, the lights will go off at 10 p.m. And come on at dusk.
Okay. And then I think we should just pull the sign into the same, so it's all contiguous and
Fine
one.
with that.
And then the sign, I think as proposed here, is this not? We'll just put, that the backlit is the flat polycarbonate faces only. Is that, because that is on here, and I just want to make sure that there's.
Well, I think it's in the status statement, I think.
It is too.
Maybe did a good job of.
I just don't know
Yep.
what polycarbonate is.
You just said.
I don't know either, but it's
The
just
only
more
indicator
than what's
on there-
backlit.
The only backlighting that remains are the white strips for the tent names. There's also on a timer to go off at 10 p.m.
Okay, perfect. All right, are we, Mark, Mayor, Lisa?
So for, we have to specify Mr. Clymer's, statement, we got the status statement is required, that this is what we're going by.
How would if I say, accept my status statement as part of the application? And you're approving the application.
Status statement.
Okay, so we're approving the development review with these conditions. The conditions relating to the lighting intensity, the lighting timing that we've discussed. and what lights turn off, and the sign with the timing, the 10 PM turn off, and the backlit restricted to the 10 slots. The landscape, one of my biggest concern was where this borders a residential area. I love the little mound, I love hemlock trees, they're great, I mean, they're the best, right? So, I thought that was really nice because it just shows, you know, kind of the neighborhood, or, you know, we're doing some, a little bit of screening here. I think that was a big deal for me, because I wasn't thrilled with parking on the east side there, but I think with that screening there, that made me feel, me personally, I felt a lot better about it.
It's 3 spots rather than more than one.
Exactly, yeah.
Have you heard it all from the neighbor?
No, no, no complaints, no. I was gonna knock on that door, but
Okay, so let me give this a shot. Anybody else? So make a motion to approve a revised development plan for the Red Barn Commons, adopting the landscaping plan as presented, adopting the parking plan as presented, adopting the sign as presented, and specifically with the flat polycarbonate faces being the only backlit part, and subject to the lighting plan with the following conditions.
And the sign is, the backlighting terminates at 10 PM.
I was gonna put that with
Oh, okay.
Condition?
the condition, but we could put it in either part.
That's fine.
My-
Conditions.
Okay, so lighting conditions, the light poles will be on the photo cell and be no brighter than 1/4 of 1 foot candle. The sign will have the flat polycarbonate faces, the only backlit part. I don't know how to put, I guess maybe your point was what they're doing with what it comes back with, so.
Well, it says the only backlighting that remains are the white strips from the 10 names, it's on a timer to go off at 10 PM.
Okay, so that's the backlit, turning off at 10 PM each night. The ground lighting onto the Red Barn, at a foot candle to be provided, as what it is today, which will also terminate at 10 PM each night. Did I miss anything?
It was a plus or minus 5%.
Plus or minus 5%. And I think that's everything. And then, with the adoption of the status statement that was provided by Mr. Clammer to Planning Commission, is adopted as well.
And the conceptual rendering provided.
Yes.
With the, what are we
Because
gonna?
remember the ramp, we approved the grass ramp and that's.
Okay. So this will officially approve the inclusion.
It's attached to this.
So last is also with the inclusion of the conceptual rendering as approved by the architectural board of review. Okay, now Mayor.
Say second. Good.
Seconded,
Steve Rakovic,
yes.
James Slade.
Yes.
Mark Porter,
Yes.
William Jones.
Yes.
Elisa Lee.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
You've made a great product. I know it's been a pain, but it looks great.
Thank you for all the time, thank you very much, and Brian.
Thank you for accommodating us here.
Ruth.
Okay.
We change it. Sorry.
Send out the dinner.
I just, he told me, so.
Brian said you don't.
You
You need yours, yeah.
How many do you want signed? How many of these do you want signed?
Everyone.
We can do this. All right, so, There's nothing further on the agenda.
No.
Does anybody have any old business?
Nothing changed?
I would suggest that we don't have that tonight.
Okay, not even some of the little, we're good, that's fine.
What's there?
It's good. We did have some, if you recall, that you guys talked about, we never actually been formally moved forward. It's fine, I just, I get it.
We're just gonna blow you off, Brian.
That's fine, I'm fine with it, that's okay, we'll do it another time. It's all good. Right, it's just a year, plus.
I don't know.
Is anybody have any public comment or questions or concerns?
Okay. Scouts B is here?
Awesome.
Good.
Excellent. There being no old business, any new business? All right.
Well, we adjourn.
Yeah.
Who was one?
Well, there is that.
Is
it really?
That's the out.
Adjourn. It actually sounded.
Yeah.
Oh, that-
Any gonna sign anything for you?
Yeah.
You're good.
I just need to observe one of the matchups and that's me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
That's the first time you're here.
Yes.
Terrible.
Jeff, where's your-